From the waterfall that pours water upwards, to the splendid but very strange lightning balls, without forgetting, of course, the terrifying and enigmatic giant cloud of medieval fables. Here are the 10 most frightening and unusual natural phenomena that you will ever see. If you're a surf lover and Point Break is your favorite movie, you probably know the most famous and exciting surf spots in the world. But far from the idyllic beaches of Hawaii or the Australian coasts, there is an unusual and improbable place where no one would have thought to find waves and even less surfers. Indeed, it is in the heart of the Amazonia that we find the Pura roca, a spectacular natural phenomenon that literally reverses the flow of the great Amazon River. It is in fact a gigantic groundswell that breaks from the Atlantic Ocean and that goes up the long river on a very big distance. This mini tsunami is known by the scientists who gave it the name of tidal bore, and we know today that it is the tidal movements due to the gravitational attraction of the moon, which is at the origin. But the Pura roca does not only seduce researchers and scientists, because who says wave says surfing, and it must be said that despite the danger that can represent such a huge tidal bore, surfing enthusiasts are there. A surfing championship is organized every year in the city of San Domingos do Capão, where we almost always count injuries more or less serious among surfers. Because the Pura roca wave drains with it a lot of debris, such as tree trunks or large branches, and above all, since we are in the Amazon, the waters are teeming with piranhas and other animals just as ferocious, which would only make a mouthful of your surfboard. Are you ready for an encounter of the third kind? Because when you see this footage, you're almost certain to believe that an alien invasion is imminent. These almost supernatural but nevertheless splendid images come from the small town of Winstead in the state of Minnesota. As you can see, strange beams of light seem to literally spring up from the ground to touch the sky like gigantic pillars of light. But we reassure you right away because they are neither tractor beams nor destructive laser beams. And it's not tomorrow that the Martians will attack us. Because these rays are in fact a simple phenomenon of atmospheric optics, which we call pillar of light or even column of light. The effect is thus created by the reflection of the light of the street lamps on the tiny ice crystals suspended in the air. And the more these particles will be big and numerous, the more the beam of light will be pronounced. These luminous halos have nothing to do with the little green men, but it is always a splendid phenomenon to observe by a beautiful winter night. You may have thought that sandstorms only occur in the vast Sahara and Arabian deserts, right? Well, you're wrong, because these spectacular and often very frightening phenomena can occur almost anywhere in the world. Indeed, it is enough for that certain climatic and geographical conditions meet, and you will be able to attend a sandstorm like the one you could see in the cult movie The Mummy, in a little less frightening all the same. Because the sandstorm is a rather frequent meteorological phenomenon, which appears when there are sufficiently violent winds to be able to transport fine particles of dust and sand in the air and on great distances. On this surreal sequence, you can see a gargantuan sandstorm that will engulf the city of Dunhuang, China. The images, which seem to be taken from a Hollywood disaster movie, show us the terrible moment when the huge cloud of dust and sand falls like a blanket of darkness on the Chinese province. Visibility is suddenly reduced to nothing, and motorists and pedestrians begin to grope at random at the risk of causing serious road accidents. Fortunately, the police are on the lookout, and the dedicated officers are out to help these unfortunate people caught in the torment of the storm. Fasten your seatbelts and hold on tight to your seats, because the following sequence might just knock you over. This incredible but true scene was recorded in Campsie Fells, a mountain range located in central Scotland. As you can see on these literally supernatural images, a waterfall is pouring its water, but in reverse. Indeed, the water, which should logically fall downwards, is seen here rising upwards, thus defying all the gravitational laws of the universe. But don't worry, this is not a paranormal phenomenon, and these waterspouts that you see rising towards the sky are not manipulated by evil spirits or naughty Scottish leprechauns. They are in fact the aftermath of the horrific storm Sierra, which hit a large part of northwestern Europe in February 2020, plunging it into total chaos. With wind gusts reaching 200 kilometers an hour in some places, uprooted trees, and completely flooded areas, the terrible Sierra caused a lot of damage in its path. Rightly considered as the biggest storm of the century in terms of affected territories, the terrifying Sierra fortunately did not cause any loss of life. Imagine that you are quietly angling, wondering when that damn fish will take the trouble to bite your hook. And as a good Sunday fisherman you will inevitably wait all day because you don't want to go home empty-handed tonight at the risk of making a fool of yourself. But don't worry too much about it, because sometimes the ocean knows how to be generous, so you won't really need to go to the fishmongers in order to not lose face. Instead, we invite you to go to this beautiful Indian beach, where you will just have to get the live fish wriggling in the sand as if you were picking flowers. This incredible but true scene shows us, in fact, a quite common phenomenon in our oceans, since it is a school of fish stranding on the coast. These sardines were probably chased by predators, such as tuna or dolphins, and thus approached dangerously the beach in order to try to escape them. The poor fish were thus stuck on the sand by tens of thousands, for the greatest joy of this fishing village, delighted to see that for once, it is the fish that comes to them and not the opposite. And speaking of sardines, did you know that this small silvery fish, that some of us only know thanks to oil cans, was the hero of the biggest animal migration of all times? Each year, several billion sardines gather to mate in the warm and temperate waters of the South African coast before starting a long migration northwards. The school of sardines is then so large and so deep that it can easily be seen from the surface of the sea and from the sky. The fish, clustered by the billions, form a biomass more than 7 kilometers long, 1.5 kilometers wide, and 30 meters deep. Needless to say that when such a manna of food passes by, predators have a field day. Sharks, tuna, dolphins, and even many species of seabirds meet near the coast of South Africa in order to wait for the gargantuan feast that is about to come. And of course, fishermen also love this great migration, which reminds us strangely of the wildebeest migration in the African savanna. Because with such a school of fish, it is certain that the fishing nets will not be idle at all. In terms of rare natural phenomena and still unexplained to this day, we find the famous ball lightning or globular lightning. This unique meteorological event is presented in the form of a small sphere of light, measuring about 20 centimeters in diameter and appearing most often during a storm. On this incredible sequence filmed from a train station, you can see one of these enigmatic balls of lightning, which appeared spontaneously above the platform. The sphere of bright blue light then flies over the metal rails and seems inexorably attracted to a lamppost, which it will finally burn the lamp with a small flash. The ball lightning will then continue its path, heading towards a nearby wood, before going out in an explosion of white light dazzling the eyes. Reaching a temperature of 1700 degrees C, these lightning balls are in fact the result of the vaporization of a quantity of silicon by a lightning. Because of their rarity and that they only last a few seconds, the lightning balls are to date very poorly documented and their origin is still subject to theories. But whatever science can teach us about these incredible meteorological phenomena in the near or distant future, it remains that it is a spectacle of beauty not to be missed under any pretext. We often say that in case of storm, you should not take shelter under a tree, and even more so if it is an isolated tree, because lightning will inevitably choose the shortest way to strike the ground, and in this case, a tree planted in the middle of a clearing represents a target of choice. In fact, the taller and more isolated the tree, the more likely it is to be struck by lightning, even in the absence of thunderstorms or storm warning signs. So watch this amazing footage, which shows us the literally supercharged moment of lightning striking an isolated poplar tree. And as you can clearly see, the sky is perfectly blue and there is no trace of dark or threatening clouds that could announce a storm of any kind. The day was rather sunny, but that did not prevent this powerful lightning to fall on this poor poplar tree, making him lose some branches in the process. So a little advice, friends. If you ever feel that the air has become rather electric around you, and that lightning and its terrible flashes are not far away, run quickly to the shelter, but especially not under a tree. Go rather to hide inside a car and raise the windows quickly. You will thus be well protected in this cage of Faraday improvised. And as always on your favorite YouTube channel, we have saved the best for last. With this terrifying sequence that we have concocted with love and attention. Look at this terrible Misty giant, which seems to come straight out of the movie Clash of the Titans, and which has been spotted sitting in the Brazilian sky. With a very threatening aspect, this dark colossus has caused a real panic among the local residents, most of whom believed in the intervention of a monster from elsewhere or in a divine punishment. But let's be reassured right away, because this mysterious pentagruelian shape is nothing more than a simple cloud that forms spontaneously in the humid and tropical air of Brazil. It happens very often indeed, and the big clouds such as the cumulonimbus take the most diverse and varied forms, so much so that each one of us can detect a familiar form there. It can be a sea turtle, a head of a hare, or even a Tyrannosaurus rex. It doesn't really matter because these big clouds are real polymorphs capable of subjugating any look by the fineness of the details they can display. It is not rare to see fantastic animals or mythical characters appearing in the sky. The trick is to have the eye to distinguish them well. And that's it for today. What do you think of these 10 natural phenomena that are unusual and spectacular, to say the least? Which of them impress you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if you like this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications. See you soon for new discoveries out of the ordinary.